Hey kiddos, it's your dad here. In this video, I want to talk about if you're feeling lost in life, directionless, uh, having this like existential depression, existential feelings, how you can gain clarity. And I wanted this to also be part of a video series because this is a process that I recently went through. Um, um, each video kind of build is independent, but it can build on top of each. Um, so in this video, talking about if you're feeling lost and directionless. Um, the second video being when you lose interest in the thing that you got direction from. The third video being when you gain clarity on what's really important, when you find your true purpose. The fourth video about expectations and the pressure that you can put on yourself to succeed. And then the fifth video is truth and living in alignment. But it all begins here, which is this place of feeling lost, confusion. For me, I always go very inward whenever I feel lost. I question, what am I going to do? I don't know. There's nothing that interests me. I start asking myself, what does interest me? I start looking and listening to things and say, maybe this interests me. Maybe this does. I've been doing this ever since I was a kid. And there's also been these periods where I get into this type of like existential depression. Like I notice whenever I go on vacations or times where it's like I'm not working, my mind just starts racing. Like it panics, and I'm just like, am I doing what's right? Or this was more previously when I don't have a lot of clarity, and I'm just alone with my thoughts. I would start to question these things like, what am I doing? I don't, what, just this loop. And I keep trying to think that maybe I'll think my way into finding the right answer of what I should be doing. And it puts a lot of pressure on me to try to figure out what's next. When I first started out when I was a kid, I would just kind of hop interests. My dad was a chef. My dad had a lot of clarity. Your grandpa had a lot of clarity on what he wanted to do with his life. He said, I wanted to be a chef. He says, I want to be a chef. Ever since he was a kid, he wanted to be a chef. He grew up, and he was a chef. For me, is like, oh, my dad's a chef. I think I want to be a chef. So I bought a NutriBullet or got a NutriBullet for Christmas, and I wanted to. I was watching Disney movies about how to become a chef, stuff like that, and then I wanted to become a radiation oncologist. So I said I'm going to become a radiation oncologist, and I was 13 or something, and I bought all of these books about medicine and biology, physiology, all of these things. I started taking Latin classes in high school because I wanted to become a radiation oncologist, and then I didn't want to become a radiation oncologist anymore at some point. So when I was a kid, it felt just kind of like normal to just interest hop, and that is normal to interest hop. It starts to become a little bit more conflicting, when I started getting older. Because then it started to become Am I not disciplined enough? Am I just too into shiny object syndrome? Can I not sit down with something? You spend a lot more time and a lot more energy putting all this effort into this thing. Like I said, whenever I find an interest, I take that up as part of my identity. I get the running shoes. I set the schedule. I get the fitness app. Uh, I get the wardrobe. I create the Excel sheets. I purchase the courses. I listen to all the podcasts. I watch every YouTube video. I did all of these things, and it because I would take that up as my identity, and I'd put it on my vision board. Like, this is what I'm gonna do. This is my interest. Um, as a kid, that was fine. But again, like as you get older, you're like, man, if I just keep doing this, I'm never going to get good at something. Um, but whenever I felt directionless, the thing that did help me was picking something, was just allowing the interest to just kind of come, be like, okay, I'm gonna follow that interest, and that does help. And it was also, there's a hidden value that you receive when you do follow your interests. When you are directionless, when you're feeling lost, you follow your interest, and then maybe you repeat that cycle where you lose interest, and then you're feeling directionless, and then you find a new interest. The hidden value that you gain is you discover what your values are, what's important to you. Um, Before I didn't necessarily call them values, but I learned what I liked and what I disliked. I learned that um, I don't really care for cooking. I bought I got the NutriBullet, but it was just like, yeah, well, I don't really care about cooking. I like eating the food. I don't really care for cooking it. Um, or when I wanted to become a radiation oncologist, it was like, yeah, I got the books, I took the classes, but it was just like, yeah, I don't really want to go to medical school, and I don't really care for studying that way. Like, I didn't have a passion for studying. It wasn't my interest not studying. I wasn't very studious. Even when I wanted to become a rescue swimmer, I went to, I when I decided to join the military, um, when I decided to join the military, because when I was in high school, I didn't know what I wanted to do before I was graduating. After I wanted to become a radiation oncologist, I didn't have a lot of direction. I was working as a waiter at this country club, and I was in my senior year. And my uncle said, hey, he was like, oh, what are you going to do after high school? I was like, oh, I'll go to community college and get my associate's degree, and then figure out what I'm going to do from there. Give me some more time. And then he said, well, why don't you consider joining the military, because they'll pay for your college and you'll get these benefits. And I was like, oh, okay, well, never really thought about it, so why not? So I go to the Army recruiting office, and that kind of takes me down the path of looking at all these different jobs and being like, yeah, I really don't want to just pick something just for the sake of picking something anymore, like I did when I was younger. Like I want a little bit, I want to follow my interests more, rather than just like, okay, yeah. Looking online, I remember when I wanted to become a radiation oncologist, I looked online and I saw, what are the highest paying jobs? And it was radiation oncologist was one of the top. So I was like, okay, I'll do that. But then when I decided, like, I'm going to join the military, I didn't just want to pick any job. The Army recruiter said, oh, you should become a tank driver, because my ASVAB score was so bad. He was like, yeah, you're not really cut out for, like, smart jobs, but you can drive a tank. I scored like a 30 on my ASVAB. And I said, yeah, I'm gonna think about this a little bit more. So I looked at all the military branches, and the one that resonated with me was the Coast Guard and becoming a rescue swimmer. Coast Guard also had the highest ASVAB requirement at that time. I think it was like a minimum of 61 ASVAB, and to become a rescue swimmer, you also have to have like a It's like uh, 60 push-ups in 2 minutes, and had a higher standard for physical fitness. Um, and at that time, I wasn't like super fit. Like I was kind of working out, but I didn't know how to run, didn't know how to swim. I wasn't into functional fitness. It was just like bodybuilding. Um, and I've always just been a thin guy. So I followed that interest, and that gave me direction. And from that, it led me to other interests. Because I wanted to become a rescue swimmer, I started learning about meditation. I started learning about, like I said, functional fitness. I started learning about Eastern philosophy and how to be mindful. I went to a meditation retreat in California. It was a 5-day silent meditation retreat. I was like 18, 19 years old. Um, and I did those things, and that helped to shape my interests, the hidden values, the things that I would want or not want. Um, the interest was never the destination. It was more like a flashlight. Um, it showed me what I was where I was starting to go, where I was starting to lead. Because if I just said I'm just going to go to community college, I'm just going to go get my accounting degree, I'm just going to do this thing, sure, I would have learned some things, but I've also wouldn't have given me the opportunity to be curious about what really interests me. So what what I got wrong when I was younger was that I confused interest with identity. I said, I am a chef. I'm going to be a chef. I'm going to become a radiation oncologist. I'm going to become a rescue swimmer. Um, and that was an interest. But what happens when you lose that interest? Then you lose your identity. And then you feel directionless. And you start questioning, who am I? Am I a failure because I couldn't stick with this thing? And an interest is not. An interest is not an identity. Your identity is your values, which is what you gain from your interests and reflecting through life experiences what it is that you want or not want in your life. An interest is just an interest. So direction comes from curiosity, not pressure. Um, I know this firsthand because when I lost my interest in things, I would also, and this was even more recently. I put a lot of pressure on myself to try to find something because I felt like I was losing my identity. I was losing my interest. I was losing my identity. I felt like, what am I going to do next? And it was uncomfortable. Um, so if you don't know what you want to do, if you're feeling lost, if you're if you're 18, if you're 18, mid 20s, maybe 30s, 40s. I don't know where you are in life when you're watching this. Um, if you don't know what your interest is or maybe you did something and then you have to and then you start over, because like I said, this is a series, this is a cycle. And until you learn some of the building blocks of why you might keep repeating the cycle, you're it's going to be difficult to not fall back into this stage one, which is directionlessness, confusion. So what happens next when the thing that you're excited about starts to feel more heavy, more misaligned? So in this next video that I'm going to be talking about, I'll be talking about why you might keep losing your interest, your passion, and how knowing your values allows you to be able to find something more long lasting. I think that's it for this video. I think that's it. Yeah, okay. We'll see you in the next video.